Cerritos is LA County, but it's on the borderline LA County and Orange County. 562, like that's also part of, like Long Beach is 562. It's originally 213 until they switched to area code. So Long Beach, where Snoop was at, it was originally 213, and then they switched Long Beach to 562, and we were part of that. So anyways, how did growing up in the West Coast influence me as a DJ and producer, and what was the difference? Well, listening to hip hop, you know, from the East Coast was was the big thing, like everybody else, you know, hearing like whether it be Rapper's Delight to Malcolm McLaren, well, even though he's from London, to Planet Rock, you know, African Bada. We were like maybe 2 or 3 years, even maybe 4 years behind maybe per se, but we had funk growing up. You know, we were listening to everything like pop, new wave, whatever, rock. And then, of course, hip-hop started coming. I mean, we didn't know it was called hip-hop. Hip-hop really got really big in the West Coast is because of 1580 K-Day. That's an AM station. It was the first legitimate 24-hour rap station. I mean, if you can say that, but really they played mostly R&B. You know, they played R&B, funk, and hip-hop. It wouldn't be surprised to hear Earth, Wind & Fire with Egyptian Lover, with Mantronics, to Ready for the World and Prince. They played everything that was pretty much black music, you know, but they were, out of all the urban stations per se, they were the ones that really, you know, them and KGFJ, 1230 AM, another station, you know, that played also, you know, hip hop and funk and soul and stuff like that. But because of K-Day, obviously, you know, they would play anything that was, you know, coming from New York, and then eventually start playing everything local, whether it be Egyptian Lover, Toddy T, King T, Wrecking Crew, to eventually NWA, Ice-T. You hear local West Coast acts or LA acts per se, and then of course we'd hear anything from Run DMC, LL Cool J, Dougie Fresh, Mantronics, BDP, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, you know. We listened to everything. I remember it was Uncle Jam's Army that started bringing out all the acts. They were like they're like the biggest dance promotion crew in LA and DJs. I mean, you got Egyptian Lover, Bobcat, Mr. Prince. They were throwing dances at the LA Sports Arena and packed it, and they were the first ones to bring out Run DMC. And then eventually, of course, K-Day bring out also other acts, send them to World on Wheels, the Casa Camino Real. So yeah, whatever we heard on K-Day, you know, or whatever bits and pieces of videos you see on TV or whatever, that's how we grew up listening to hip hop or experienced hip hop. Shout out to Julio G and Tony G, original K-Day Mixmasters. Tony G was like the first K-Day Mixmaster, along with Jammin' Gemini and the World Class Wrecking Crew. Greg Mack was the one who was an on-air personality and helped put together, you know, his own little crew, kind of like rival Uncle Jam's Army. Tony was the one in charge. He brought Julio G in, Joe Cooley, Aladdin, Trae, Battle Cat, Henry G from the New York Spin Masters, Ralph M, who was also part of, eventually became part of the Funk Dubious. So they had the K-Day Mixmasters were like the super crew DJs and stuff. So then they would fuck it up on on the turntables and listen, doing its times, playing mixes, playing all the hot shit that was coming out, whether it be locally or from New York or the East Coast and stuff. So in Julio G, a lot of people might know, is that he's the voice on Grand Theft Auto for the West Coast station, also the DJ for Cypress Hill. He's pretty much definitely a West Coast OG, and like especially for radio, like especially when he broke away from K-Day and then end up getting back to radio as an on-air personality instead of a DJ, and pretty much just like almost like the voice of LA radio. The guys that influenced me from LA growing up, it was pretty much a majority of the K-Day Mixmasters, but but then there's also, like, of course, Egyptian Lover, Dr. Dre, Tony G and Julio G, Joe Cooley, Aladdin, Battle Cat, Trae, those are, at least those like well known locally wise, legendary wise. Those are the people who influenced me from LA. Personally, me growing up where I came from, besides listening to them, were three cats where I lived in Cerritos. One was this cat named Rhettmatic, which was kind of ironically kind of like I was named after him as a joke, but it kind of stuck. This cat named Arabian Night, who later on became a rapper, now part of a group, or now named Psycho, part of a group called Insane Poetry. So, which they were signed to at one point, Egyptian Empire, which is eventually signed to Sir Mix-a-Lot's label on Nasty Mix Records. And one more person is DJ Curse, who's like one of the OG members of in the Beat Junkies. He's 1 year older than me, but he was like one of the cats that that wasn't, both Rhettmatic and Arabian Night were African Americans, they were black. Curse was half Filipino and half white, so to see someone that was cutting it up, had the skills back then, and got respected within the Black Latino community and in the hardcore hip hop community, that was he was a hero he was like a mentor to me and stuff like that. So those are the three influence in terms personal wise. But the craziest thing, of course, besides the blacks and Latinos, Asians, especially also Filipinos, were very active on the West Coast. We were the joke coming from San Francisco all the way to LA. The Filipinos are like the Puerto Ricans of the West Coast. We were very active in the Filipino scene, or even the funk scene. It's just that mostly we were more like, whether it be dancing, we or DJing, or even graffiti art, but not necessarily rapping, because Asians are not very more expressive, so they express themselves very more in other mediums, but never vocally and stuff like that. I mean, at least when I came up, there was not really any Asian MCs, but definitely a lot of Asians involved in whether they be DJing, dancing, or graffiti art. Eventually, a lot of MCs, like Asians or Pacific Islanders started representing. I mean, I remember like the official some Asian on wax would be the Booyah tribe. They're Samoans, and they're from Carson, so that's part of LA and stuff. So they were the first ones I seen on wax, even rapping and stuff, because back then they were known as poppers, and then eventually became MCs and stuff. People from in the Bay Area, you had the KNT, and then of course you move forward, you have Lyrics Born in Southern California. Eventually Key Cool from the Visionaries, as well as Danu. Slowly but surely there were a lot of Asian MCs started coming out, and then eventually you got someone like Bamboo and Kiwi from Native Guns. But yeah, for the most part, Asians were always active and participating in the hip hop culture on the West Coast, more in California and Seattle.
When people say, who are your top three, I never hear people say Large Professor, but they don't realize how much he's influenced the game, and it's, it's kind of his personality too, because he's just a humble, chill cat, but he definitely should get more love than he gets. I'll throw in Ali Shaheed Muhammad from Tribe Called Quest. I mean, he's done so much dope stuff within Tribe, outside the Tribe, that people don't know.
DJing's weird now. With all the technology, it just seems like the whole level raised, but then certain aspects of it dropped also. So, I think we're at a weird point in the circle where the playing field is really leveled. It's not as hard to get a song anymore as it was back in the day.
When we first came in the game, it was that era and time when DJs actually spent the music that they like. Now, they're spinning music for whatever reason. I really don't know firsthand, because I'm not involved with that. But it's got to be some reason why there's not a lot of good music on the radio.
What I want EBB to be remembered as that we were most definitely instrumental for keeping hip hop, because I think that the backbone that hip hop was losing in the drum machine era of hip hop we were able to facilitate when the sampling craze came in.